Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Hi.
Hello.
Checking out the names.
Yeah,
I see our regulars here.
cool.
Super exciting.
A lot of people joining us. Welcome. We're excited to get talking about exfoliation today. Hi, Beth. Hello, Rosie. If you're just joining, we're waiting for a couple of others to join, and we're going to talk all about exfoliation. Um, if you want to enter in the chat where you're joining us from, and then also what are you dying to learn about today?
Yeah.
That would be cool. Thanks. Okay, we got Oklahoma, Nashville, Tennessee, Florida. It's nice, sunny and warm.
Mm,
Another Oklahoma.
Kentucky. Amazing.
Very cool. We still have a few people trickling in, so we can wait a few minutes. Carol, good to see you. Okay. Hey, what are you excited to talk about today?
The Radiant Thief
Mm,
and skin polish. I mean, lots of things. I love talking about why exfoliation is important, why every skin type is going to benefit from exfoliation.
yeah,
And of course, love talking about the ones that we have, but Radiant Sea is such a fun texture. I like exploring that one.
yeah. I love that one. And if you're just joining us, we're waiting just a couple minutes for a few more people to pop on. But we'd love to see where you're joining from and then also hear from you on kind of what you're interested in learning today about exfoliation, about our products, or anything really. And you can plug that into the chat.
I'm taking a peek at the attendees because I just hopped off a consult, which shameless plug always for our skin consultation, and seeing if they joined us. They were thinking they might join us for this one.
Nice.
Yeah. Ooh, dark spots. This is
I
gonna
was gonna
be.
say, Kate, I'm back.
You made it. Oh,
I made
good.
it.
Yay.
And it gave me a minute to look to see what products I had.
Oh, that's awesome. Very good.
I love that.
Mhm.
Okay, we have a lot of dark spots.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, you want to dive in? You want to start with dark spots?
Let's start with dark spot.
All right.
Start with dark spot. So, what we're talking about today is exfoliating the skin. And exfoliation can look a lot of different ways. We've got the two main ones, which are physical exfoliations, which means that we're using some form of texture to buff or polish the skin. This can also be done with what we refer to as a chemical exfoliation. I do want to qualify chemical is the process. We use a honey-derived lactic acid to provide the exfoliation. We've also got the bioactive A, that's a much more mild exfoliation. So when we are using an exfoliation that we're referring to as chemical, this is referring to the process. These are not toxic, dense chemicals, anything like that. Should I get into specifics? Do we want to start? We want to get into
Yeah,
specifics.
let's Grace. Grace is on as well. We do have a special. We always forget to mention, but
I
we
know.
can't forget this time. Yeah, go ahead, Grace. If you want to share a little bit about what our special is.
Yes, of course. It's arguably one of the most exciting parts. So we are offering 25% off all of our exfoliants, which are what we're going to talk about today, of course. I will put the code in the chat. It is live until about 4 p.m. PST today. So it does give you a little bit of time to do some shopping while we're kind of discussing what exfoliants we have to offer. And then just stay tuned because we do have some giveaways as well. So it's going to be a good call. But yeah, I'll put everything in the chat.
Thanks, Grace. Yeah, we're going to be giving away quite a few of our exfoliants. We don't know which ones yet. Probably when
Yeah.
we're just talking about them, we'll give them away, but stay tuned for those too. But yeah, let's dive in, Kate.
Sweet. So we've got several options when it comes to exfoliating the skin. I'm going to start with one of my personal favorites. This one, this is the Radiant C Mask and Polish. Now, I love this one for generally exfoliating the skin, but also specifically or if you are working on fading darkened areas of the face. This one, it comes in the form of a loose, dry powder, this here. And so we customize this by mixing this with water, mixing this with another cleanser. I had a customer once who likes to cleanse, they like to exfoliate using this with a toning mist. The rosemary toning mist was what they liked. All of those are great. So we're wanting to combine this with a liquid to get the consistency that we desire. Now, this is great for every skin type, including the very sensitive. And the reason is because you can very much customize the consistency. So more water or liquid is going to give you a thinner, softer, lighter polish. Doing less liquid, more of the powder, you've got more texture and more grit with the skin. So this is just a deeper feeling buff. You also can kind of control the depth of this with the pressure of the fingers, which is another reason I really like this for super sensitive skin is because you can stay quite light and have this be supportive for your skin type. Or you can have a little bit more pressure with a little bit more texture to get a little bit of a deeper exfoliation. Now, what's cool about this one specifically for pigment, specifically for darker spots on the skin, is that the formulation of the Radiant C includes ingredients, fruit powder, acerola cherry, cacao plum, that are very vitamin C rich. So when we're using this, we are getting the brightening, but also from these very vitamin C rich ingredients here. This is also a cool one because you can use it as a mask. I won't spend too much time on that because that's not necessarily the focus of the call. But a cool trick with this one is to use it as a mask and then wet your fingers and then exfoliate. So using that, exfoliating the skin as you're removing that as a mask. Again, this is the Radiant C mask and polish. If someone was curious about this one here, great for every skin type. Another one of our classics is this one. And I imagine if you're a regular Anne-Marie skincare customer, you've probably tried this at some point. This one's called the Kaolin Micro Exfoliant. The feel of this one, when somebody says, skin exfoliant, a facial exfoliating cream, the texture that comes to mind is probably close to what this is. So when we squeeze it out of the tube here, it's got good grit. We use a crushed bamboo stem that provides a lot of that texture. The feel of this is very mineral rich with a lot of the other ingredients that are in this. So you get this lovely, lovely soft feel in addition to the smooth feel with the exfoliation. This one is in an aluminum tube, but I always like to call out that this is a BPA-free lined aluminum. And for me, the tube of this lasts forever. This just lasts so, so long. I also like this as a body exfoliant. We, of course, in the past have had different versions of body exfoliants, but this one is a kind of classic, great one for backs of the arms, just the whole body in general. Now, skin types that do really well with this one, again, most skin types like this one. If you are somebody who is fairly sensitive or really, really dry, the depth of this one might be a little bit too much for your skin type. But generally, normal to dry combo, signs of aging, all of those do really well with the Kaolin microexfoliant. My personal favorite Well, the Radiant Sea has a special place in my heart, but I also am a huge fan of this one. And I feel like I love getting to talk about this one. This one is called the Resurfacing Facial Exfoliant. Now, this is the one that is using the lactic acid, the honey-derived lactic acid to exfoliate the skin. So how we use this one's a little bit different. With the other ones, we're going to be buffing the skin, maybe using a little bit of pressure, rinsing it off. The consistency of this one is a gel. And when we apply this one to the skin and we leave it on almost like a mask. This is where the magic happens. So that honey-derived lactic acid is working to resurface the skin. This is a deeper exfoliant. This is a more intense exfoliant. So this is one that I love. And if you are really sensitive, maybe not your number one. This one, yeah, it's normal to have a little bit of activity, normal to maybe have a little bit of tingle with this one. But then the greater ingredient composition, the lactic acid is paired with hyaluronic acid. We've got skin soothers in here, cucumber distillate. So although we might feel activation with the lactic acid, we also are going to get this soothing that's happening at the same time. So leave it on anywhere from 3 to 10 minutes or so, rinse it off, and then skin is very, very smooth. Let's see. Am I missing an exfoliant, Rach?
Ayurvedic.
Ah, yes, I don't have the Ayurvedic. The Ayurvedic is very similar in consistency to the Radiant Sea. So it's a loose, dry, herbal blend. It's very aromatic and very gentle. I love, love, love this one for sensitive skin types. You can again mix it with cleanser, but I quite like using it on its own. You do still mix it with water. Comes in a little jar, shake it in your hand, add some water, and really create the consistency that you desire as you're buffing that on the skin. So the Ayurvedic is another amazing one, especially for sensitive skin. A tool that I'll call out is our lotus wood exfoliating brush. So this is something that can be used in addition to your regular cleanser just to get a little bit of a deeper cleanse there. So quite gentle, quite light as far as exfoliating, but another way we can work with the skin there. So Rachel, that was a ton of information. Do you feel like you'd add anything?
I don't think I have anything to add for that specifically. I was going to dive into a couple of the questions here.
Mm,
And then I wanted to break out some of the, I guess, unique qualities of lactic acid comparing to salicylic or glycolic, or
mm,
someone had asked about mandelic specifically.
mhm.
So let's go back to the beginning, some of the questions. So someone had asked, I don't know the answer to this. Does exfoliation help with unwanted hair growth?
With unwanted hair growth?
I have
Uh,
no idea.
I would say not necessarily. The hair growth is going to be happening quite low in the skin in a little bulb.
Mhm.
And so the exfoliation, generally, even a deeper exfoliation, like if you were to go get a chemical peel or a microdermabrasion, it's still working with upper layers of the skin. So I wouldn't expect that it would be impactful for hair or hair growth. Um, with all the information I have, I would say probably not going to make a huge change in hair, like especially preventing hair growth or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then somebody else had asked, does exfoliating work for puffiness under the eyes, or is that area too tender? I would say
Mm,
not to scrub that area.
yeah.
Instead, use a jade roller or gua sha gently around that area. But if you want to add to that,
Yeah. Rachel's pretty much got it. The tissue around the eye area is super thin. So puffiness is going to be happening kind of underneath the skin. Exfoliating is not going to make a huge difference, and my recommendation would be to avoid the eye area in general. You can get up to the orbital bone and the tops of the cheeks, but don't bring anything kind of, up to the lash line, down to the lash line. Yeah.
Okay, so this next one is specifically about how it would compare, so how lactic acid would compare to mandelic acid. Do you know much, and do you want to answer a little bit of that, and I can chime in?
So lactic acid, the way lactic acid works is it helps to very, very gently break up the glue that holds skin cells together. And this is where we get kind of a loosening. I don't know as much about mandelic acid, but I know that lactic acid is a naturally occurring acid. You find lactic acid in milk, you'll find lactic acid naturally in the body. And I don't know that that's true for mandelic acid. It's another reason that lactic acid generally is something that's safe for the body at any point in time, including aging and things like that, because the lactic acid is a naturally occurring acid. Um, so I don't know. I don't know very much about mandelic acid.
I had a friend who used to love mandelic acid, and I think it's very similar in terms of safety as lactic acid.
Mm,
Lactic acid is more hydrating, but you are correct in saying how lactic acid is typically naturally derived, where mandelic, I think there's maybe one source of it, like almonds, um,
mm,
and the majority of them are synthetically derived. But yeah, I think in terms of AHAs, mandelic and lactic are probably the safest. So if you are using mandelic and it works for you, and if you're concerned about clean products, just look into where it's derived from or what it's derived from, and maybe ask the manufacturers or the company that you're purchasing it from, hey, what's your source of your mandelic acid? Um, but I would say those two are the safest. And then glycolic is, I personally would avoid it.
mm.
And
Yeah.
then salicylic is the beta hydroxy, which is oil soluble.
Yeah. You bring up a good point though, because the sourcing of an acid is quite important. Although lactic acid is a naturally occurring acid, it's really uncommon to have a natural source for the lactic acid. So if you were to go to a day spa, most day spas, when they're using a lactic acid, it's not a honey-derived lactic acid, it's not a natural derived lactic acid. Likewise with salicylic, salicylic can be naturally derived, but most of them are not going to be
Mm.
naturally derived. And even glycolic, there is natural ways to do it, but glycolic just really gets very, very deep into the skin in a way that is not necessarily supportive or conducive to working synergistically with the body. So
And
I,
glycolic causes that like glassy, plasticky looking skin over time. Like,
glycolic and retinol can do it as
retinol, yeah.
well. Yeah. So anything that's really, really breaking the skin down, this is where you kind of see the skin, yeah, that like I mean, you described it exactly. And maybe we all know what this looks like. It's just when people look like they've had a lot of work done.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we've got a retinol or a or not lactic, glycolic that's in the mix somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Another question, would you use the Ayurvedic one, then the resurfacing exfoliant? So a physical one plus a chemical one? That's a great question, which we were talking about the other morning.
Yeah.
Touch on that.
Yeah. So keep in mind, I am a licensed esthetician. I do this for science, but I particularly do like combining exfoliants. So I like to do either this one, kaolin, or Radiant C. I wouldn't do both, but do one of these and then use the resurfacing facial exfoliant, doing that one and then this one. I also know my skin very well. I also know I can handle this. I've also tried this very slowly. So started with just the resurfacing facial exfoliant, got comfortable with that one before trying to do anything, more intense before. So it definitely can be done. And how you find what works for you. The Ayurvedic might be what's perfect for you before it. It could be something more, a little bit more textured, like the kaolin. You can do one and then the other, but just be quite cautious. Be very careful. Definitely try the resurfacing facial exfoliant on its own. Make sure you're comfortable with it. Make sure it feels good and you've got a feel for it before trying to get any kind of wild with it. You definitely want to cleanse before it. So, as you're exploring that one, do aloe herb cleanser, try the resurfacing, see how it feels, and then you might experiment with doing exfoliant before it. Yeah.
I wanted to add that if you do, in the evening, do a cleanse with your cream cleanser, whatever cleanser you use, the resurfacing, and then depending on how it feels, maybe a pearl mask, like you do like a full ritual, and then you can put your typical products. I like to use serum with like a little bit of the cream after I use the resurfacing.
Mm.
And then the next morning, wash your face, let it dry, and just feel how it feels. And then
Yeah.
that's a good time to use the Radiant C or whatever exfoliant that you use.
Yeah.
Okay. Tamara says, I missed the one you leave on for 3 to 10 minutes. My apologies. That one's the resurfacing facial exfoliant, which helps best for clogged pores on the face.
Yeah, any. Really, this is one of the reasons that exfoliating is important. Um, I think a really quick shift, the resurfacing facial exfoliant is absolutely going to be a pretty quick shift for you. Um, I also really like the activated night serum for someone who has really clogged pores. Although this isn't considered, an exfoliant per se, with the bioactive A that's part of that, people do notice the difference pretty quickly and that one you apply just at night. And you, of course, will be careful with using other exfoliants around it. But yeah, I would say for a quick shift, resurfacing facial exfoliant or something with the bioactive A, the activated night or a booster or something like that.
Great.
Yeah.
Let's do a giveaway really quick. Let's pause here. Let's maybe the resurfacing.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I would like to know, and tell me if you want to know something else, but I would like to know what are you currently using for exfoliation? And if you are using a chemical exfoliant or if you have used one,
Mm,
what do you currently use? Which product, which company, which acid, anything? I want to know.
yeah. Ooh, I can't wait for these.
Yeah.
If there's
Start reading through. Okay, we got kaolin, enzyme by Theriderm. We often hear that people don't exfoliate, so I saw one, but I like to see that people are exfoliating. Yeah, there was a point where I was scared to use one because everything came to the surface. This was maybe in my late 20s, early 30s. And then I had a friend who worked here who was an esthetician, and she just spoke so highly of exfoliation. And so I started exfoliating regularly. And you just notice such a difference because it also just preps your skin for absorbing all of the serum and the goodness and the creams that you put on. So it's doing you an injustice to not exfoliate for sure.
yeah.
Oh, and for this one, let's give away three of this one. So
Ooh.
Grace, you want to pick three? Take another minute or so. Home remedy, ground turmeric with honey. I like that.
Yeah, I like that.
Yes, Glenda, I was afraid for a very long time. If you want to share why you're afraid, I'd like to hear that so we can touch on that. Scrum. A lot of good answers.
Yeah.
Too sensitive, okay. Maybe the Ayurvedic would be a good one.
Hmm. Yeah, the Ayurvedic is really supportive for very sensitive skin types.
Very
And I've
sensitive.
worked with people who like their skin is so sensitive that we're like incorporating one product at a time. And the Ayurvedic is what we often reach for our exfoliant with them.
Yeah.
The Ayurvedic does smell good. I do
Mhm.
love the Ayurvedic
Mhm.
facial scrub.
Okay, Grace, how are you doing? You have three winners?
times like these where I wish I could just choose everyone because I'm like going through, I'm like, this is so hard. But our three winners are Laureen's iPhone is how the name's showing up. So Laureen, Marita, and Denise. So very excited for you three. I'm going to put a form in the chat for you to fill out with just basic contact info so I can contact you after the call to get that sent over to you. But yay, Laureen, Marita, and Denise.
Yeah, congratulations. Okay, let's get into some more questions.
Yeah.
Also, if you're just joining, a few people have joined in the past 5-10 minutes. We are doing a special today. We're doing a lot of giveaways. We just gave away 3 of our resurfacing facial exfoliants. We are also doing 25% off all exfoliants today for the next 2 hours or hour and a half until 4 p.m. Pacific time. ASC exfoliant is the code. Grace can put that in the chat again. And we are just talking about all things exfoliation. And Kate is sharing all of her knowledge. She's our in-house esthetician who has way too many years of experience in the skin world. So thank you, Kate.
Yeah, definitely. I see a question here that says mask and then exfoliate. And so I want to touch on that because I love the pairing
Yeah.
of exfoliation and masking. Generally, how I would recommend combining this is exfoliating first and then masking. So whichever exfoliant you're using, if it's the kaolin, if it's the resurfacing, Ayurvedic, do that one first and then follow with your mask. And which mask you use, any one of them can be good. I will illuminate a combination that I love is these two. So using the
Illuminate.
resurfacing, huh?
You'd say illuminate.
Did I say illuminate?
Yeah. I love that.
Perfect.
Pun
The
intended.
resurfacing facial exfoliant. So this one is that lactic acid, the honey-derived lactic acid, and then immediately following it with the illuminating pearl mask. This pairing, anytime I'm working with a bride, a mother of a bride, if I'm working with someone who's getting ready to take family photos or go to a high school reunion or something like that, like this, the combination here, skin is left so glowing. And the illuminating pearl mask, if this is a new product to you, this is this very lovely, lush soft, kind of creamy feeling mask. I'll show it in the view here. Smells amazing. Some of the key ingredients in here, we've got some brighteners. So Uva Ursi is in this one. We also have crushed pearl powder, and this crushed pearl powder just leaves skin feeling very luminous, and the finish of it is just beautiful. Of course, I love it on its own. This is like, basically our mascot. But using it after the resurfacing facial exfoliant, like that pairing is really lovely. And I'll try to do that about once a week. I've got 2 kids, so realistically it might fall every 2 weeks or maybe every 10 days. But I try to be consistent with that because the skin is just left really, really beautiful. So yes, I do encourage using both. You don't have to do them together because sometimes on consultations, which plug, we do 90-minute consultations a couple times a week. So if you have really in-depth questions, please join us. But on the consultation, sometimes it can get confusing that people will lump the step together, that if you're exfoliating, you then have to mask. And that is not true. We can uncouple that. You can do one, you can do the other. You don't have to combine them. But doing them back to back is also a quite lovely way to treat the skin, to support the skin. So great question. I think it was Beth, or maybe not, but someone who had asked that. Good, good, good.
Kathy, yeah. And then you spoke to it a little bit. You do it once a week, that combo and pairing. But how often would you recommend exfoliating? And so, like in general, the kaolin, the Ayurvedic, the radiancy, the resurfacing, chemical versus physical, if you're combining exfoliants, if you're using the activated night serum as well, or a bioactivate complex. So I don't know these factors for us.
Yeah, this is time for the slideshow. Just kidding. Generally once a week. So, if nothing else sticks, exfoliating once a week is a really, really good rule of thumb. Now,
Mm.
having said that, there are other factors to consider. So, if you're using something like the activated night serum, that one has our bioactive A in it. That's a retinol alternative, an amazing product that I absolutely love. I wouldn't recommend that you're going to go right in with the resurfacing facial exfoliant if you've been using that one for several days. So, because the resurfacing facial exfoliant is quite a bit more intense, I'd say take a couple nights off of the activated night serum or the boosters if you're using the revitalized booster, the concentrated boosting elixirs. One of them is concentrated, a concentrated amount of the bioactive A. Take a couple nights off of that before coming in with the resurfacing facial exfoliant. Other things to think about, the Radiant C, because this one is so versatile, I've used this one back to back. I've used this one several days in a row and been completely fine, especially if I'm mixing this into something else. There was like when we first launched this, I think there was a good 2 weeks where I was using it pretty much every day with the phytonutrient cleanser. So I would pump 2 to 3 pumps of that in my hand, shake a little bit of this, get a nice good blend, and then use that on the skin. So because that was being diluted, I could use that a little bit more frequently. So although once a week is a good standard, things to think about, as you're deciding when and how often to use it. Another thing that I want to illuminate is sunscreen.
Mm.
Yeah, so when we're exfoliating the skin, we can leave skin a little bit bare and a little bit fresh. So we want to be very, very intentional to protect it from UV damage. And our Sun Love, this sun protection product is exactly what's going to do it. So putting that on, definitely a couple mornings after, especially if you've used the resurfacing facial exfoliant, that one, if this was my day spa that I was managing, I would require this to be sold with the resurfacing facial exfoliant because you really want to make sure you protect the skin. Um, so just making sure that, a couple mornings after you've exfoliated, especially a deeper exfoliation, you're using the Sun Love. The kaolin, the Radiant C, that one is not quite as imperative. It's not penetrating the skin and exfoliating the skin, excuse me, quite as deeply as the resurfacing. But I recommend the Sun Love pretty much anytime you're exposed to the sun. So I don't know. From there, I think it's kind of up to you, your intuition of what feels good. But definitely with the resurfacing facial exfoliant.
Nice. So we've had quite a few people join. I think we should do another giveaway. Maybe the Radiant
Oh,
C, since it's one of
oh,
your favorites. And do you want to ask a question?
yeah, I'd love to ask a question. So I'm curious if you have used an exfoliant before, have you always had great results?
Mm,
If you have, talk about that. If you've had, challenges, or maybe you haven't used it because you've been afraid, what has kind of been some more negative experiences you've had with exfoliating? I'd like to see
it's a good
both
one.
of those.
We can pick three winners for this one.
Ooh, cool. Grace is clapping. How exciting.
Yeah.
Ooh, this is a really good one that I want to touch on. I'll grab a couple as they come in here. Someone shared, I lost it. Okay, I lost it, but it was something to the effect of I've exfoliated and noticed a difference, but it doesn't seem to last. And I
Okay.
think this is a great thing to address. So exfoliating is kind of a way to think of it is like a deeper cleansing. So you can use it once and you're probably going to feel great. All of ours are kind of cumulative with the way that they work, especially the resurfacing. But even the Radiant C with the vitamin C in that continued use, you'll see a brightening with the skin. But it just like cleansing, if you cleansed your skin once and then never cleansed it again, you're still going to need to cleanse the skin. Exfoliation can be helpful if you are somebody who's on the dry end of the spectrum or oily end of the spectrum. It is just aiding in this process of keeping the skin moving along so that we're not getting this buildup. that can happen, especially in the winter time with really dry skin, but any time of year this can happen. And so if you use it once and then never pick it up again, your skin is going to continue to evolve and grow, and your skin cell turnover process is going to continue to happen. So
Mhm.
it makes sense that you maybe didn't notice the difference long term. Um, Something like the resurfacing facial exfoliant, that one is very cumulative. So using that week over week, the skin looks different. But just like if you were to cleanse every day and then stop, you might not, you might see the skin kind of needing a cleanse as time goes on. With pigmentation, as you're continuing to use whichever exfoliant you're opting for, well, as this is lifting up to the surface and sloughing off, that is gone. That is complete and complete in its life cycle. Now, that's not a quick process. That, depending on the pigmentation, can be something that you're looking at 6 weeks. It could be months and months, depending on the degree, the depth, the intensity of whenever this activation happened. Um, so that is something that is both compounding, and also you gotta put some time in with it. So I didn't look at any of the others. I want to go back
I read
there.
a lot that it was just too much. They were so intense. Somebody used an apricot exfoliant.
Mhm.
I had a friend who recently came over and she had an exfoliant and we were doing like a facial party with masks and she's like, "Oh, do you want to try mine?" And I was like, "Oh, what's in it?" And she's like, "Well, it has walnut shells and this." And I was just like, "No, I'm good, you know." And I
Yeah.
shared the Radiant C with her if she wanted to use it. And I just want to point out that there are a lot of exfoliants that should never be used on the face, like walnut shells or apricot, like nut shells. They're
Mhm.
way too intense. Even so, when we were formulating the Radiant C, the bamboo powder that we use, the company that we're sourcing from sent me three different grits. And some are intense that could be used on the body, and I chose the least intense one because I don't think your skin can handle such intense particles just scratching it. You know what I mean? Kate, do you want to speak to that at all?
Yeah, no, that's a real thing. So apricot scrubs, especially walnut, other nuts in general, when they're ground, the shape of them is angular. And so when you use them on the face, they're literally scratching the skin. So, and that's the reason that microbeads existed for a long time. I think microbeads are banned now. Obviously, we're not using microbeads in our products, but that was the shift, was that, the original inception was like, using something gritty, they were finding that this is actually damaging the skin quite a bit, and
Mhm.
went the microbead direction because those are rounded. But you don't have to, of course, use a microbead. You can just use something quite a bit finer that's not going to cut into the skin. And even if it's so, like, I won't name the brand, but there is a very, very popular
Somebody already did.
apricot
Somebody
scrub.
already did. They said
Can
that
I call
same.
it
We
out?
all think of it, St. Ives. She already
Say
named it, the one in the
no.
tub.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I had it in a tube way back in high school, which is probably the last time I was using it. But in the aesthetics world, like, it's where, like, friends don't let friends use this particular scrub. It's just very, very, very intense on the skin, and it's also formulated with these very heavy waxes. It's a totally bananas product, really, with the texture and then the combination of ingredients. So yes, to your point, there are some things that are exfoliants that we would not actually want to be using on the face.
Yeah.
Great point.
Great. I think we should choose some winners. Grace, how are you doing there?
Yes. All these answers were very fascinating. I was like reading through them like three or four different times because I'd be like, wait, didn't someone say something similar? Oh my goodness. It was just so fascinating. Anywho's. Okay. Winners are Angie, Lori, and Tammy Shames. So excited for you three. As per the last time, I'm going to put a code in the chat, or not a code, a link in the chat for a form for you to fill out. So you can fill that out. That'd be great. But yay, Angie, Lori, and Tammy.
I mean,
Congrats.
thanks, Grace. Congrats, everyone. Okay, I want to dive into, and also in all those answers, a lot of people talked about how they have sensitive skin. And I want to, just because we've had a few people join, touch on how if you have very sensitive skin, you may really want to try the Ayurvedic scrub because it is a little bit of clay with crushed ground herbs. So it's very fine powders of herbs. And instead of being intense and scrubbing it, maybe mix it with your aloe herb cleanser or your cream cleanser, whatever you want to use, and gently press it onto your skin instead of scrubbing it. And you still will get an exfoliation factor with it. So I just wanted to mention that for sensitive skin. Let me scroll back up because I feel like we had questions all the way up here.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody asked the difference between the kaolin and the radiant C again, other than the physical versus chemical. They are both actually physical. The chemical is the lactic acid derived resurfacing facial exfoliant. It's derived from honey. The difference between the kaolin and the radiant C, kaolin is a wet scrub, and it could be a mask if you wanted, but the radiant C is meant to be a mask or a polish, and it is in powder form. Also, I guess one thing to mention, the kaolin is primarily kaolin with aloe. It's more of a cleansing tool, where the radiant C also has fruit powders and a little bit of clay, and it's very, very brightening. It has a lot of different high in vitamin C fruit powders. So I think those are the main differences there. I'm just like speeding through this because I know you already went over this.
No, you're good. I'm also scrolling through and looking
Okay,
at some
cool.
of these.
Um, if you've just joined, we do have a sale that we're doing. We're doing 25% off exfoliants until 4 p.m. Pacific time. So take advantage of that if you haven't. I'm seeing a lot of I don't exfoliate. Now's your chance to try it.
Yeah.
You definitely should. Any questions you're seeing?
Not questions. I've seen a lot of people, which you saw as they were coming in, who don't use it. They have sensitive skin or
Yeah.
worried about breaking the skin.
Somebody asked the scent of the Ayurvedic. That one has like
Mm.
this herbal, earthy aroma to it. I feel like that's the best way to describe it. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very earthy, very.
You smell the fenugreek for sure. So it has
Mhm.
like that earthy sweetness from the fenugreek.
Yeah. It almost smells like a spice you would add to a food of some sort, like if you were cooking something. It's not like savory necessarily, but that's this is us trying to describe the scent. Very hard to pin down smell.
Someone also asked, is the activated night serum daily and the resurfacing once a week together okay? I don't feel like I get much benefit from the resurfacing even when I leave it on for 10 plus minutes.
Hmm. That's an interesting one. I would say in most instances, at least taking the night off before you've used it. Um, I think, everything can have an exception. So if you have tried the combination and it feels comfortable, sometimes, especially the resurfacing facial exfoliant and even the activated night serum, you don't feel the activity necessarily right away. So if you're doing, let's say you've done the resurfacing facial exfoliant and then you put the activated night serum on, it might not feel like much, but a lot can still be going on. And so if you've tried them in the same night, it feels okay. I think it is okay. Definitely use the Sun Love. Definitely make sure you're using the Sun Love. And sometimes what with either of them, you're not going to feel the tingle. You don't really feel activity with the activated night serum, but sometimes what it looks like is like a light warmth um, that night or the next day. And sometimes it doesn't even feel like anything, but you might notice that your cheeks are a little pink, or skin just feels a little bit different. And so, even if you're not feeling activity, there can be other indicators that stuff is happening. So, it's not against the law. But definitely move with caution if you are wanting to do, to combine those. So,
Nice.
yeah.
We talked a little bit about masking and exfoliating and how to combine them. We both, Kate and I, love exfoliating and then the pearl mask, specifically the resurfacing facial exfoliant and then the pearl mask, or maybe the Radiant C and then the pearl mask.
Yeah.
In a rare occasion, would I mask and then exfoliate? And that would be if I'm using the charcoal cacao mask. I would use that one, and then
Oh.
after that, I personally would use the Radiant C just to kind of get it all off.
Yeah, the charcoal cacao mask, I think it could be perfect either before or after. The feel of that one is very different than the other two, the illuminating pearl and the coconut honey. So that is one that you could use before. Honestly, I'm not sure that I've tried it before doing an exfoliant. So yeah, you might be able to speak to that better than me.
Okay, I'm still reading through a lot of these questions and responses. One thing that came up is they're just saying so many to choose from. How do I pick? If you had to give, like a quick synopsis, one sentence, like the top person that should use each one, what would you say for resurfacing, Ayurvedic, Kaolin, Radiancy? I feel like I do this to you all the time.
I
So
know it's quite fun.
do
I like the challenge. Okay, so Ayurvedic facial scrub, sensitive skin. Sensitive, reactive, prone, easily irritated skin. Radiant C, any skin type, specifically darkened areas of the face. So if you're working on pigmentation. Kaolin microexfoliant, normal, even normal dry, normal combo. Someone wanting a little bit of a deeper exfoliation, this is where I would do the kaolin microexfoliant. Resurfacing facial exfoliant, I would say someone concerned with more pronounced signs of aging, deeper lines, creasing, also dark spots, and they can handle activity. They can handle some intensity because this one is a little bit more intense than any of the others. Um, yeah. Anything you would expand on? I just keep feeling like I'm missing something with them. Maybe
no,
not.
no, I think that's great. Um,
Cool.
we have 10 minutes left, and I want to do two more giveaways. So, one giveaway, which we haven't done this before, is where you don't really have to do anything. Grace, do you want to choose three people from the prior list who said they have sensitive skin and pick them for the Ayurvedic?
Oh,
I feel like they
yeah.
would appreciate that.
Awesome.
And then let's do the Kaolin. You want to pick the question? We can give away two Kaolin.
Yeah, to Kaylin. Okay, another exfoliation question. How old were you when you started exfoliating?
Ooh, I like that. That's a
Mm.
good one. Oh goodness. It's so true because I remember my dad had that big tub of St. Ives and I was like, what's this? And I would like put it on my body.
Mm-hmm, hmm.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, I was probably in my teens as well. I got very into skincare very young, and so I
Yeah,
did
same.
tried all the things. Yeah.
I was like 14.
Yep, yep. I had physical exfoliants. I'm sure I had like those pads, like glycolic
Oh
pads,
my
or they're
God.
probably salicylic. There's probably salicylic marketed to teenagers.
I remember alcohol. I remember a friend of mine had these pads and I was like, "Oh, I love it," because you would smell it and you would feel it
Yeah,
tingle and it's just alcohol you're rubbing on your skin. You're like, "What
yeah.
is this?"
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it, but I remember those.
I clean and clear. Wait, I don't know how to, it was like a little plastic pot.
Okay.
I totally remember having something like that if it wasn't the same one, but
Uh,
yeah. You were like, it smells like it's working, but it was just really, really just totally drying out the skin.
yeah, for
It's
sure.
a miracle we stayed invested, you know. We tried such intense products that could it would have made sense if we went the other direction and we're like, never.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just live in the woods.
Yeah.
Well, I think people are still adding in their answers for the Kaolin giveaway. But Grace, do you have your winners for the sensitive skin?
Yes. Okay. Our winners are Denise. And then this one, hopefully they know who they are. iPhone Steph, STEF. And then Karen B's iPhone. So I'll put those in the chat so you can see them. But those three all have sensitive skin and I think would love the Ayurvedic facial scrub. So yay to you three.
Yay,
That's
congrats.
awesome.
Good. Okay. And if you're still adding in your answers, take another minute for the Kaolin giveaway, which was when did you first start exfoliating? 10 years ago at age 70. Wow.
Nice.
I love that. Teenager. Yeah. All over the board. Someone had asked earlier, how often would you exfoliate or would you exfoliate? I'm looking for your question right now, but it was something in regards to dermaplaning and if you're doing the blade.
Hmm.
I would say avoid exfoliating after you dermaplane, at least for 10 days. I would
Yeah.
just let your skin be. Kate, do you have a thought there?
Yeah, so I would liken dermaplaning to a chemical peel as far as the depth that you're going into, especially if you're seeing a professional for it. Even if you're not, it's quite deep. If you don't know what dermaplaning is, it's like a small flat blade that we use to both exfoliate and smooth the skin. Um, but it can be fairly intense. So, yeah, I would not use maybe the Ayurvedic facial scrub a few days after. But that would be where I would start. And then, yeah, probably nothing like the kaolin or resurfacing for a good 10 days, if not longer.
Yeah,
Um,
I just feel like you don't need to. I mean, I do it in the winter, the
mhm.
dermaplaning. I just started this past year because one of our other team
Mm.
members, Alexandra.
Yeah, nice.
And I did it and I was like, okay, that's an interesting feeling. You could avoid and just go without exfoliating for a few days or a week. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know the method that you guys do. Sometimes they'll like, give you a powder to apply so that everything's kind of loosened up beforehand. And I don't know anything about the powder. It could be totally fine, could be not. But it could be something that before you dermaplane, you do a nice light exfoliant, like the Ayurvedic or the um, Radiant Sea, that also helps to loosen specifically hair. When you dermaplane, you're removing the hair as well, and so when you have the hair kind of like up and separated, that can make that just an easier process. So maybe before, but only something quite gentle, like one of those two that I mentioned, for sure.
Should we pick our winners, Grace? And then I'm going to dive into another question here.
Yes. So our winners for the Kalen are Shelly, Josie, and Anne. So yay, you three, you won the Kalen. And again, I'll put the form in the chat for you to fill out. But Shelly, Josie, and Anne are our winners.
Congrats. Yay. I also wanted to mention we have our group consultations, which, getting on there could be very helpful. But we are also launching paid consultations pretty soon. I don't think the link is live yet. We're only opening up for 10 slots for now, and this will be with Kate. Kate, it's not live, right? I just messaged Rach. I don't think it is. Okay, so
Mhm.
keep an eye out for that. We're going to start with an internal list that we have, and then we're going to let our customers know. We'll probably talk about it on the next live event that we have on May 1st, just to kind of, spread the information to all of our insiders, which are you. But that would be a good place to start to go deep into your skin routine.
Mhm. Yeah, we are very excited to be offering that and creating the space for that. Really deep diving into personalizing what your skin needs. So,
Yeah, and if you ever get that link, if you don't hear it from us and it says out of stock, we're only opening it up to a limited amount of spots. So just get on the wait list so that we can email you when it opens up again. Um, and yeah, I would really take advantage of that.
yeah.
Okay, I'm still reading through. We talked about sensitive skin using the Ayurvedic. Also, another thing, if you have sensitive skin and you want to exfoliate, honey is also a gentle exfoliant. So you can just put a little bit of honey on your skin, let it sit, maybe mix it with some clay. If you
Mm,
have any simple clay at home without any actual grit to it, then that could be nice. Okay. Anything else you're seeing in here, Kate? Any other lingering questions? Someone asked about baking soda.
yeah, baking soda is very alkaline naturally. And so it's not ideal for the skin. I've absolutely used it in a pinch, and it texture-wise it does the job, but it leaves skin super, super stripped. So it wouldn't be something that I would necessarily recommend for the skin of the face most days. Yeah.
Sea breeze. Someone commented the name of that toner thing with the alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Wow. After this call, I'm gonna Google it
I
and just
know.
like reminisce on the packaging.
Crazy.
Wild.
Okay. Can you use a mask instead of exfoliating? Danielle asks this one. A typical mask, I would say no, it won't. I mean, the charcoal might have a little, but our resurfacing facial exfoliant is technically a mask. Like it's in a serum form, you apply it, you leave it, you rinse it. But it is an exfoliant. So that would be one. You just have to see that it's doing the same thing. Okay. We have a minute left. I'm looking for more questions. Private consults, great, you got her. Grace, do you want to plug in the link for the group consults again?
Yeah, great. Yeah, we do the group consults a couple times a week. These are a group setting where we dive into, what's going on with your skin. They're a little bit less personal, but we do get to really answer a lot of questions in those calls. So
Yeah,
thank you, Grace.
amazing. Okay, that's our hour. Thanks, everyone. This was full. This was a request from our customers to have a call about exfoliation specifically, so I can see why.
Yeah. Yeah,
It was
great
helpful.
question.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. We appreciate you, and Um, thank you for the reminder to do Revitalize Booster selling alone. We don't yet, but we get
Yep.
requests, so maybe eventually we will.
Mm.
We are working on a little something on the side. Not the side, I'm working on something on the side, which will be for everyone, but it might take the place of needing that one, which we'll explain at a later date. But Kate knows about
Yeah.
it.
Be
All
good.
right. Thanks, everyone. Have a lovely afternoon. And don't forget to use your code before 4 p.m. Pacific time. Okay.
Thanks,
Talk
guys.
soon. Bye.